Welcome to Sleepy Expeditions. 3 days ago, your plane went down. You were the only one who made it to shore. No radio, no signal, no rescue confirmed. The search is happening somewhere out there. 200 miles of open Pacific between you and the nearest inhabited island. The search aircraft flying grid patterns you cannot see from this beach. Tonight, no one came. The fire is burning low beside you. The ocean is everywhere. The stars are out, all of them, the full Milky Way overhead in a sky with no light pollution for 200 miles in any direction. No one is coming tonight. You have accepted this. And in the accepting, something shifted. The panic of day 1 is gone. The frantic signaling of day 2 is done. Tonight is just this. The fire, the ocean, the sand still warm 6 inches down from today's sun, the crabs moving at the tide line, the bioluminescence beginning in the breaking waves on the reef. Tonight the island is enough. Find a comfortable position. Let the imaginary sand press up beneath you, cool on the surface, warm underneath, real. Close your eyes, the ocean continues. The beach is narrow, 20 meters from the tree line to the water. Coral sand, not the fine white sand of postcards, but the coarser, slightly grey sand of a reef island, composed of pulverized coral and shell, and the accumulated calcium of 1 million marine organisms reduced by water and time to the specific texture under your hands right now. The sand holds the day's heat longer than you expected. The top layer is cooled by the night air and the occasional reach of the tide. But 6 inches down, the sand is still warm from the sun. You discovered this by accident on the first night. Exhausted and cold, pressing your hands into the sand and finding warmth where you expected cold. The earth stores what the sky gives it. This is always true. The tree line begins abruptly behind you. Coconut palms first, the coastal trees that lean outward over the beach, their roots in the sand, their trunks curved toward the light. Behind them, denser growth, the specific tangle of a tropical island interior. The undergrowth so thick in places that moving through it requires effort. The canopy above so complete that the floor beneath is dim even in full daylight. You have explored maybe 1/3 of the island, 2 days of careful movement through the interior, mapping it in your mind. The freshwater pool you found on the second morning, fed by a spring in the rock, the water clear and cold, and the most important discovery you have made. The fruit trees inland, papaya, something that might be breadfruit, the specific plants that indicate this island has supported human visitors before, possibly long ago, possibly many times. Someone was here before you, not recently. The evidence is old. A stone firing on the eastern shore, weathered and partially buried in sand. A clearing in the interior where the trees are younger than the surrounding forest. The specific sign of a space that was once maintained and then abandoned. Islands are not empty. They are between visits. The ocean is moving. The tide is incoming. You learnt to read this in the first day, the specific sound of the waves changing as the tide rises, the reach of the water on the sand extending gradually toward where you are sitting. In an hour the water will be closer. In 2 hours you will need to move the fire. You know this now. 3 days on this beach and you know things about it that you did not know how to know when you arrived. The plane was a small charter, 8 passengers, 2 crew, a flight from a coastal city to a small island resort. The kind of trip that thousands of people make every year in this part of the Pacific without incident. The kind of trip that is so routine that the safety briefing feels like a formality. The weather changed, not gradually. The specific violence of a Pacific squall, the sky going from clear to black in 20 minutes, the turbulence arriving before the pilots had time to divert. The details of what happened between the squall and the water are not clear in your memory. The specific trauma of a crash compressing time in ways that leave gaps. You were conscious when you hit the water. You had your life jacket on. This is the fact that matters. The fact that the safety briefing and the routine gesture of putting the jacket on during the instruction becomes the reason you are sitting on this beach rather than at the bottom of the ocean. The current carried you, not directly to the island. The current carried you for what felt like hours before the shape of land became visible in the grey light of early morning. The specific dark green of a forested island rising above the ocean horizon. You swam toward it. The body does things when the alternative is death that it would not do otherwise. You have not cried since you got here, not from toughness, from the specific quality of the days since the crash, which have been too full of immediate practical demands to leave space for anything that is not the next task. Find water, build shelter, make fire, signal, rest, repeat. The signaling is the part you have reduced. 3 days of maintaining a signal fire on the highest point of the island, the specific smoke-producing fire that the survival training in your memory says is visible from aircraft at distance. 3 days of watching the sky, 3 days of seeing nothing. The ocean is very large. The island is very small. 3 days is not enough to stop hoping. It is enough to start accepting. Tonight the signal fire is out. You did not make the decision formally. You simply did not climb to the high point today, and the day ended, and the fire on the beach is the only fire now. Tomorrow you may climb again. Tonight you are sitting on the beach and the ocean is ahead of you, and acceptance has arrived quietly in the way that things arrive when you stop fighting them. The freshwater pool is 40 minutes inland. You found it on the second morning following the sound, water moving over rock, a specific sound that is different from the ocean, different from rain, the sound of fresh water finding its level through stone. The pool is small, 3 meters across, fed by a spring that emerges from a crack in the basalt at the island's interior high point. The water is cold, colder than the surrounding air, which means it is coming from depth, from the specific cold that rock acquires when it is insulated from the surface temperature by meters of stone. You tested it before you drank, not with any equipment, with the specific tests that the survival training provides. Clarity, smell, the absence of obvious biological contamination, the taste of the first small sip. It was clean. You drank until you were no longer thirsty, which took longer than you expected. The specific dehydration of 2 days on a tropical beach without water having accumulated without you fully registering it. Thirst is not always loud. Sometimes it is just fog. Water is everything on an island. This is the first principle of island survival. Not shelter, not fire, not food, water. The human body can survive weeks without food. It cannot survive more than 3 days without water. The specific arithmetic of human dehydration is unforgiving, and a tropical island with no freshwater source is a death sentence that the beauty of the setting does nothing to mitigate. This island has water. This changes everything. With water, time is available, time to think, to build, to signal, to wait. Without it, the island would be a countdown. With it, the island is a place where survival is possible indefinitely, where the specific demands of staying alive can be met, where the question is not whether you survive, but whether and when you are found. Water turns a death sentence into a waiting problem. You carry water in the coconut shells you have cleaned and dried. Not elegantly, the coconut shell is not a perfect container, the specific porosity of the material allowing slow seepage, the water level dropping over hours, but functional enough. You make the trip to the pool twice a day, once in the morning, once in the late afternoon, filling the shells and carrying them back, the weight of them a good weight, the weight of the most important thing. The shelter took most of the first day. Not because it is complicated, the shelter is not complicated. The specific improvised structure of palm fronds and bamboo poles, and the particular ingenuity of a person who has watched enough survival content to know the principles and is now applying them with materials that are not exactly what the content described, but are what is available. The lean-to, back to the tree line, the frame made from fallen bamboo. There is a stand of bamboo at the northern end of the beach. The specific good fortune of bamboo on a tropical island, the most useful plant in the survival toolkit. The frame lashed with stripped bark. The lashing crude but functional. The specific tight wrap that holds under stress. The roof of palm fronds, layered like shingles. The lower layer first and the upper layers overlapping downward so the rain runs off rather than through. The first night it rained. The shelter held. Not perfectly. Water found the gaps in the frond coverage, the specific drips of a roof that is not quite watertight, but mostly dry, which is the survival standard. Not perfect dry, but adequate dry. The difference between sleeping in a puddle and sleeping slightly damp. Shelter does not need to be good, it needs to be better than the alternative. You have improved it over 3 days. The frond coverage thicker on the second day. The specific overlapping pattern more deliberate. A ground layer of dry palm leaves beneath the sleeping area. Not comfort exactly, but insulation from the sand. The small thermal difference between ground contact and a layer of leaves significant enough to matter on the cooler nights. A windbreak on the northern side where the trade wind comes from. A wall of woven palm fronds that reduces the wind reaching the shelter interior by enough that the inside is noticeably warmer when the wind is up. The shelter is 20 feet from the fire, close enough that the fire's warmth reaches it on calm nights. Far enough that a spark carried by the wind would land on sand rather than on dry palm fronds. You thought about this. You positioned everything according to a logic that developed over hours of consideration. The specific spatial reasoning of a person who has one fire and one shelter and cannot afford to lose either. Thinking ahead is the only survival tool that does not run out. The coconuts are the foundation. Every food chain on this island begins, in one form or another, with the sun hitting the palm leaves and the palm trees producing what palm trees produce. The coconuts are water and food and container and fuel, the specific versatility of a single plant that makes the coconut palm the single most important plant for human survival on a tropical island. You have eaten nothing but coconut for 3 days. Not from lack of options. The papaya trees inland are producing fruit. The specific orange-yellow of ripe papaya visible in the interior canopy. And you have eaten papaya too. But coconut is the constant, the thing that is always available, The specific abundance of an island that has had coconut palms for longer than anyone can determine. The green coconuts for water, the mature ones for the flesh, the specific dense white meat of a mature coconut, more caloric than the green coconut water, the fat and the carbohydrate that the body needs after days of physical work in tropical heat. The island feeds you if you pay attention to what the island offers. The reef produces fish. You discovered this on the second afternoon walking the reef flat at low tide. The specific exposed reef shelf that the tide reveals. The shallow water over the coral alive with the small fish that inhabit reef environments. You have no fishing equipment. You improvised a sharpened bamboo spear, the specific technique of remaining very still in the shallow water until a fish came within range. It took 3 hours the first time. You caught one fish. It was not large. It was the most satisfying food you have ever eaten. Not because fish speared in a tide pool while stranded on a deserted island is objectively superior to any meal you have had before, because you made it from nothing, because the specific chain of decisions and skills and patience that produced the fish were entirely yours. The meal tastes different when you made everything that went into it. Tonight you ate coconut and the last of the papaya you brought back yesterday. Tomorrow you will get more papaya. The island is not generous, but it is sufficient. The signal fire was on the high point for 2 days. The high point of the island is 40 meters above sea level. Not dramatic, not visible from great distance, but elevated enough that smoke from a fire there would be visible to an aircraft at altitude before smoke from the beach would be. You maintained it with green palm fronds. Green material produces white smoke. White smoke against a blue sky is visible at distance. This is the specific principle of signal fires, not flame, which is visible at night but produces less visible smoke by day, but the specific thick white smoke of wet or green vegetation burning on top of a hot fire. You watched for aircraft for 2 days. Nothing. The sky is very large. The island is very small. This is not despair. It is the specific arithmetic of search and rescue operations in the open Pacific. The search area calculated from the last known position of the aircraft and the range of possible drift, the area enormous, the resources limited, the probability of any given pass over any given point in the ocean low on any given day. You understand this, you studied this, once, not for any practical reason, but in the way that a person who reads widely accumulates specific knowledge without anticipating its use. Search and rescue protocols. The specific mathematics of ocean survival. The window of likely rescue declining with each day, not because the search ends, but because the search area expands and the resources stay constant. Day 3 is not too late, but day 3 is not day 1. Hope has the same weight every day. The circumstances change around it. The signal mirror you made from the plane's wreckage, a piece of aluminium panel, bent and polished against the coral sand to a rough reflective surface, is in the shelter. You will use it tomorrow if aircraft appear. The specific technique reflects sunlight toward the aircraft. The flash visible at distance under the right conditions. Tonight there are no aircraft. Tonight there is only the fire and the ocean and the stars. The Pacific Ocean covers 1/3 of the Earth's surface. You knew this fact before. It did not mean anything before. Facts about the size of things rarely mean anything until you are inside the size. You are inside it now. In every direction from this beach, the ocean extends to the horizon. The horizon from sea level is approximately 3 miles away. The specific geometry of the Earth's curvature limiting how far a person standing on a beach can see. 3 miles of visible ocean in every direction. And beyond the horizon, more ocean. The nearest populated island is approximately 200 miles away. You are not going to swim 200 miles. The ocean around the island is not calm tonight. The trade wind has been consistent since noon. The specific steady wind that characterizes the trade wind belts of the tropics, blowing from the northeast at 25 knots and producing the 3-foot swells that are breaking on the reef now. The sound of them a constant percussion, not dangerous, consistent. The ocean is not hostile, it is simply indifferent. The indifference is vast. The reef protects the beach. The coral reef that surrounds the island's eastern and northern sides absorbs the wave energy before it reaches the shore. The specific hydraulic engineering of a reef system, turning ocean swells into the gentler waves that break on the beach. Without the reef, the beach would be uninhabitable in trade wind conditions. The waves reaching the shore directly would be too large for a campfire, too energetic for the lean-to. The reef is the island's wall. It is also its food source. The fish on the reef, the shellfish in the tide pools, the specific abundance of marine life that a healthy coral reef supports. The reef is why the island is habitable. Survival is always partly luck. The luck here is the reef. The bioluminescence appears around midnight. You saw it last night, lying awake. The fire burned low, the ocean dark, and then the specific blue-green glow appearing in the breaking waves. Dinoflagellates, microscopic marine organisms that produce light when disturbed. The chemistry of their bioluminescence converting chemical energy to photons in the specific wavelength that appears blue-green in seawater. The waves glow when they break, each breaking wave producing a flash of blue-green light. The specific cold light of living organisms doing what living organisms do. The specific beauty of a natural process that requires no audience and produces wonder anyway. The ocean glows at midnight. It has always glowed. You are simply here to see it. The sky here is different from any sky you have known. Not the sky itself. The stars are the same stars, the same light that has been falling on every part of the earth throughout human history. But the conditions, no light pollution anywhere on the island or within 200 miles of it. No haze from industry, no atmospheric interference from a city. The sky is what the sky actually is. The Milky Way is overhead, not a faint smear on the horizon, not the pale suggestion that city dwellers occasionally see in favorable conditions. The full structure, the spiral arm of the galaxy, visible as a dense river of light crossing the sky from northeast to southwest. The galactic center above the southern horizon. The dark nebulae creating the specific patchy texture within the band. You have been using the stars to orient yourself. The Southern Cross is visible from this latitude, the specific constellation that Southern Hemisphere navigators have used for orientation for centuries. The long axis of the cross pointing approximately toward the South Celestial Pole. You found it on the first night, recognized it from the survival content you had absorbed years before without expecting to need it. South is that direction. The stars do not care that you are lost. They show you where you are regardless. Polaris, the North Star, is near the horizon here, low in the northern sky, the specific indicator of north that Northern Hemisphere navigators use, but that is nearly useless at this tropical latitude, where it sits only a few degrees above the horizon. You are in the tropics. The tropics of the Pacific, specifically the band of ocean between the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn, where the trade winds blow consistently and the sun is overhead twice a year, and the islands are volcanic or coral, the specific geology of the Pacific island chain. The stars confirm this. The specific constellations overhead, the specific angle of the Milky Way, the specific position of Jupiter, bright yellowish, currently near the southern horizon. All of these are consistent with a location in the southern tropics of the Pacific, 200 miles from the nearest inhabited island. Knowing where you are and being able to do anything about it are different things. The island is not silent at night. The ocean is the loudest thing. The consistent percussion of waves on the reef, the specific sound that does not stop, that has been present every moment since you arrived, and that you have almost completely stopped hearing as a sound and begun to register as a condition. Below the ocean, the jungle, the birds are quiet now. The specific daytime sounds of the island's bird population, the variety of calls and songs that fill the interior from dawn until dusk, have given way to the nighttime sounds, not silence, different sounds. Insects, the specific chorus of tropical insects at night, crickets and something else, something with a lower frequency, a pulse rather than a sustained note, the rhythm of it not quite regular, variable in the way that biological processes are variable rather than mechanical. You have been listening to this for 3 nights. The specific identification of sounds is something you worked on during the first day. The specific anxiety management of paying attention to the environment rather than to the thoughts about the environment, naming what you hear, locating it, understanding it as the sound of a functioning ecosystem rather than as the ambient noise of an alien place. Fear makes unfamiliar sounds threatening. Understanding makes them just sounds. The crabs come out at night. Hermit crabs, primarily, the specific scavenging activity of crabs that spend their days in the shade of the tree line and emerge at night to move along the beach, the small sounds of their movement audible close by, the specific clicking of shells on coral sand. The first night you moved closer to the fire when you heard them. The second night you watched them. The third night, tonight. They are simply part of the beach. Fiddler crabs in the sand flats at the tide line, land crabs in the tree line, the larger ones with the specific aggressive posture of an animal that has no natural predators on an island without land mammals. The island is alive with things that are not you. You are the visitor. The island was full before you arrived. You have not emptied it. The panic was on day 1. Not the crash. The crash was too sudden and too physical for panic. The specific sequence of impact and water and swimming, leaving no space for the psychological response that came later. The panic came on the beach, after the immediate survival tasks were done, after the fire was built and the water found, and the shelter started. In the first quiet moment, it arrived as physical sensation before it arrived as thought. The specific quality of panic in the body, the chest tightening, the breathing changing, the specific neurological cascade that the body produces when it assesses a situation as threatening and cannot identify an action that addresses the threat. You cannot signal loudly enough. You cannot swim to safety. You cannot make rescue happen faster than it will happen. The panic found no action to attach itself to, and gradually, across the hours of the first night, it converted. Not into calm. Calm would be too large a claim for what happened. Into something more functional. The specific orientation of a mind that has exhausted the available panic responses and arrived at the practical questions that remain when panic is done. What can I do today that makes tomorrow more possible? Panic is the body searching for an exit. Acceptance is the body deciding to stay. Day 2 was better. Not because the situation had changed. The situation was identical. The island the same size, the ocean the same distance to the horizon, the rescue prospects the same probability, but the mind had adjusted to the situation, and an adjusted mind is more useful than an unadjusted one. You found the breadfruit on day 2. You improved the shelter on day 2. You made the signal mirror on day 2. Day 2 was productive in a way that day 1 could not have been, because day 1 was occupied with the work of becoming someone who could survive here, rather than the work of surviving here. The first day is always the hardest, not because the conditions are worse, because the adjustment has not happened yet. Tonight you are adjusted, not happy. Happiness is not the word for what you feel sitting on a beach with a low fire in the middle of the Pacific, with no confirmed rescue coming, but functional, present. The specific quality of a person who has accepted the situation they are in and is no longer using energy to resist it. The energy is available for other things now, for noticing the bioluminescence, for listening to the crabs, for watching the stars. Time moves differently here. Not slower, that is the cliché, and it is not accurate. Time moves differently. The specific divisions that organize time in a connected world, the hour, the appointment, the notification, the schedule, are absent. What remains is the natural rhythm of a day, measured by light and tide and hunger, and the specific arc of the sun across the sky. Dawn is when the birds start, not when the sun rises. 10-15 minutes before the sun rises, the first birds begin, the specific anticipation of light that some species demonstrate, the biological clock running slightly ahead of the actual event. Midday is when the shade retreats to directly beneath the palms. The specific indicator of the sun's position that a person without a watch learns quickly in a tropical environment. The shade of a vertical object points away from the sun, and when the shade is shortest, the sun is highest, and the sun is highest at midday. Afternoon is when the trade wind picks up. The specific daily pattern of the trade wind, calmer in the morning, freshening through the afternoon, the wind that determines when to collect rainwater from the leaves and when to bank the fire against the gusts. Days are real without clocks. You learn this quickly. You have been on this island for 3 days. 3 days measured not by a calendar but by 3 cycles of bird dawn work, midday afternoon fire, dark stars sleep. 3 complete rotations of the world that brought you here. 3 passages of the island through its own daily rhythm. It feels longer, not unpleasantly longer. The specific quality of time that passes slowly because you are inside it fully, because each hour requires enough attention that it registers as an hour rather than passing unnoticed. You have not been bored. Full attention makes time real. The distracted life moves faster and leaves less behind. You think about home in the evenings, not obsessively, not the specific torment of a mind that cannot stop returning to what it cannot have. More like looking at a photograph, the specific quality of distance making the familiar vivid, The things you do not usually notice about your ordinary life becoming visible through the specific lens of their absence. The coffee in the morning, not any particular cup, the generic fact of coffee in the morning, the specific smell and warmth of it, the ordinary ritual that has started every day for years without particular attention, the sound of other people in a building, the ambient sound of human occupation, the specific acoustic texture of a place where other people are present, doing their things, making their small sounds, the sound of a world that contains other minds. Your phone, not the specific content, not the emails or the news or the specific information that the phone provided, the weight of it in your pocket, the specific habit of it, the automatic reach for it in any moment of stillness, the way it filled the spaces between things. There are a great many spaces between things here. You learn what you actually needed by discovering what you miss. What you do not miss surprises you. The specific anxieties of the connected life, the specific low-level hum of obligation and comparison, and the particular quality of distraction that a device-filled life produces, are entirely absent. You have not thought about any of the things that occupied most of your available worry before the crash. The situation you are in is serious, but it is simple. Survive. Signal. Wait. 3 things. 1 priority. The specific clarity of a life reduced to its actual requirements, stripped of everything that is optional, leaving only what is necessary. Necessity is clarifying. The unnecessary things reveal themselves in its presence. The island is a system. This is what 3 days of careful attention has revealed. Not a collection of individual plants and animals and weather events, but a system. The specific interdependence of components that makes an island ecosystem function. The reef feeds the birds. The specific chain. Coral supports small fish support larger fish support the seabirds that nest in the interior. The birds fertilize the soil with their droppings. The soil supports the vegetation. The vegetation's roots hold the island structure together against the erosion that the ocean constantly attempts. The coconut palms are everywhere because they can disperse by sea. The coconut is a floating seed. The specific design of it, the air-filled husk, allowing it to survive months in ocean water and germinate when it reaches a suitable shore. The coconut palm is on every tropical island because the ocean is the palm's dispersal mechanism, the specific genius of a plant that uses the most abundant highway on the planet. Islands are planted by the ocean. The ocean gives and takes in equal measure. The freshwater pool supports more than just drinking water. The pool is the island's reservoir of moisture in the dry season. The humidity around it supports plant species that cannot survive elsewhere on the island. The moisture gradient from the pool creating a micro-ecosystem distinct from the drier beach environment. Small frogs live in the vegetation around the pool. You did not expect frogs on an island this small, this isolated, but there they are, small, green, the specific creatures whose presence indicates the health of a freshwater system, whose calling at night has become one of the sounds of the island that you recognize and locate. The frogs at the pool mean the pool is clean. Indicator species are the ecosystem's own monitoring system. The island knows things about itself that you are only beginning to learn. 3 days of attention and you have learned a fraction of what is here. 3 months would reveal more. 3 years would approach fluency in the specific language of this particular island's particular ecology. You may not have 3 years, but you have tonight. The fire is the center of everything. Not practically. The fire is not strictly necessary tonight. The temperature warm enough that you could sleep without it. But centrally, the specific quality of a fire in a dark place organizing the space around it, defining the inside and the outside, marking the occupied point in an unoccupied landscape. The fire says, here. Someone is here. You have kept it burning every night. Not for warmth, for the specific psychology of a fire in the dark, the quality of it as companion, as marker, as the oldest human technology that predates every other human technology by hundreds of thousands of years. Fire and human beings have been together since before anatomically modern humans existed. The specific smell of wood smoke, the specific sound of burning, the crackle and the pop and the low sustained hiss of wet wood, the specific warmth of radiant heat on the face while the back stays cool. These are not learnt associations. They are something deeper, responses built into the nervous system across hundreds of thousands of years of association. Fire feels like safety because for most of human existence, fire was safety. The fire tonight is small, driftwood mostly. The specific dry hardness of wood that has been in salt water and dried, burning hot and clean with a specific blue-tinged flame. Palm fronds for the initial catch, their specific oiliness making them excellent fire starters. The oil in the frond burning with a brief bright flame before the driftwood catches. You watch it, not for any practical reason, not monitoring it for any threat, just watching. The specific meditative quality of fire watching that human beings have been engaging in since before there was a word for meditation. The fire moves, always moving, never the same configuration for more than a fraction of a second, the specific dynamic geometry of combustion producing continuous variation within a consistent form. Fire is never the same twice. It is always itself. Tomorrow you will climb to the high point. The signal fire will burn again. The mirror will be ready. The specific protocol of maintaining visibility to the search that may or may not be happening 200 miles away will continue. You will collect water in the morning, the 40-minute walk to the pool, the filling of the coconut shells, the walk back, the specific daily maintenance of the most important resource, the ritual that keeps the body functional and the days moving. You will fish at low tide. The tide chart you have been tracking in your head, the specific pattern of the tide cycles, the rough 12.5-hour interval between low tides, the timing that determines when the reef flat is accessible, tells you that low tide tomorrow afternoon is at approximately 3 o'clock. You will be on the reef with the bamboo spear. The island asks for attention. You give it. The island provides. The rescue, if it comes, will come from the sea or the air. A passing ship, the specific chance of a vessel passing close enough to the island to see a signal, is low, but not zero. The Pacific shipping lanes pass 200 miles to the south, the specific routes that container ships and tankers use connecting Asia to North America. Occasionally a vessel deviates from the lane. Occasionally a vessel passes close enough. An aircraft, the search that began when the flight failed to arrive, the specific SR operation that is almost certainly ongoing, the probability of any given grid square being searched on any given day, the mathematics that you cannot calculate without information you do not have. You have today, you will have tomorrow. That is enough to work with. The fire is burning low. You added the last piece of driftwood an hour ago, and the fire has done what fires do. Consumed what was given to it, reduced it to coals, the amber glow of the coals still warm but no longer producing flame. The ocean is very close now. The tide has come in while you were sitting here. The water is 10 meters from where you are. The wet sand reflecting the starlight, the specific dark mirror of saturated sand at the tide line. You will need to move the fire soon. Not now. The coals are low enough that moving them is easy. A few minutes with a flat piece of bark, pushing the coals back from the tide's reach, settling them in the sand above the tide line where they will smolder through the rest of the night. You have done this before. Everything on this island has been done before. You do it again. The stars are overhead. The Milky Way has moved since you sat down. The specific slow rotation of the sky carrying it from the position it was in hours ago to its current position, the galactic center lower now, the Southern Cross higher. The island is the same. The ocean is the same. You are slightly different from this morning. 3 more hours of adaptation. 3 more hours of the specific learning that this island has been providing. 3 more hours of becoming someone who can live here. You are always becoming someone who can live where you are. The bioluminescence is beginning. The waves on the reef, you can see them from here, the line of white water at the reef edge visible in the starlight, have a slight blue-green tinge now, the dinoflagellates active. The ocean producing its own cold light in the breaking waves. Beautiful. This is the word that keeps arriving. Not the beauty of a curated experience, not the specific beauty of a thing that has been arranged for viewing, the beauty of a thing that is what it is, that does not require observation to exist, that is simply happening. The ocean glowing, the stars turning, the fire in its last warmth, the crabs on the beach, the frogs at the pool 40 minutes inland, all of it continuing without you, and you inside it. You are not stranded in a hostile place. You are a guest in a place that does not know you are there. Close your eyes. The ocean continues. The fire holds its last warmth. The stars are exactly where they always are. Sleep now. Tomorrow the search continues. Tonight the island is enough.